one of the people I'm going to talk about when I'm talking about the sports heroes is a guy named Bert Gibson, who was a swimmer. I've decided to take a kind of proactive approach to our history in Gravenhurst this year because we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. It's been 40 years that Gravenhurst Archives has been running since Cyril and Marion Fry started it in 1978, January of 1978. So in fact, a complete 40 years of history. The mandate is normally just to collect, preserve, and share our history. But I decided that sharing might take on a more active, proactive role by going out and talking to people about aspects of our history that I think people might find really interesting and that they might not really know a lot about. So in the case of the first speaking engagement that I'm doing at the end of February on the 27th, we're going to be talking about sports heroes that you didn't know we had.
So if you're a history buff, obviously it'll appeal to you. Or if these some of these folks who Judy's going to be talking about are family members or friends, or it's a great way to kind of get to know them from a different perspective as sports heroes. I think it also gives people a greater sense of just how much history there really is in Gravenhurst and how integral I think the Gravenhurst Library, the Gravenhurst Archives is in helping to preserve that history.
Beyond that, in other months coming up over the rest of the year, I'm going to be talking about 7 other topics. Prisoner of war camp, for example, and the 400 Nazis who lived in our midst at one time and how we coped with all of that, or didn't. Some of the other topics have to do with the main street and its history of some of the wonderful buildings that we have on our main street and how they have changed hands over time, become different kinds of things. We're going to talk about the houses in Gravenhurst, not just the ones on Bay Street that everybody realizes are historic houses, but there are many others that have both beauty and an interesting history. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about Gravenhurst High School because it's celebrating 100 years of its yearbook, the Gravenhurst Tatler. At the end of the year in November, I will do the talk that a different version always, but a talk about the soldiers from Gravenhurst who went to the Great War.
No registration is required and they are free to the public, absolutely. Taking place here in our programming room on the first floor of the library.
So there's a whole series of things to talk about, things that our history, makes our history so engaging, so interesting, so intriguing. I don't think people realize how rich the history of Gravenhurst really is.